I will call to order the May 19th Planning Commission at 6:32. First up is approval of minutes from April 21.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second? Well, I guess second first, and then if you have a question, I
Yeah.
just need a second first. Second by time. All right. You got a question then?
Yep, page 6, I can't get the minutes in front of me here, but page 6, condition 8, we discussed our deed restriction stating that the right to contest assessment for sidewalk is waived. And I'm just questioning whether that went into the subdivision improvement agreement or how that was addressed.
So
Because I didn't see it in the condition in the minutes.
you said that's on page 6
Which item from the last
or
week?
page 8?
I can't get the minutes in front of me, I got blank screens here.
Do you know what it was about?
Yeah, it was the sidewalk issue on Lacey Road.
Okay. So H would be page 8 then, on the PDF anyway.
Okay.
So it shows the area of all easements and right-of-way on the CSM. If additional right-of-way or permanent easement is required to allow the sidewalk improvements, minor modifications may be approved by a public works director and city planner without requiring reapproval.
H, I guess. Yeah, you have the conditions.
And sorry, I'm just gonna wait a second while we're figuring out this
It
technical.
was condition number 8.
Yep.
H. Yeah, I thought we were going to put something in the condition that they would waive the right to contest assessment for sidewalks in the future.
So I can address that if you just give me a second here on this feedback. It should work now? Well, there's still a lot of feedback, but I'll try to ignore that here. So I believe the condition of approval, and I don't have it in front of me either, read that the subdivision improvement agreement would be required prior to issuance of building permits. In our discussion here, we established that the Plan Commission doesn't have authority to waive the sidewalk requirement or to require the deferral or the assessment at a later date. So we just acknowledged in the minutes, or it should be acknowledged in the minutes, that issue would be negotiated by the Board of Public Works and the Common Council when they review and approve the subdivision improvement agreement.
I was just saying, can we just take a pause, because this is too distracting to even listen to what Sonia's saying.
All right. We got that stopped for now anyway, but we'll see if it continues to be an issue. We're just getting Sonia back online here. Trying a different computer this time. Zach, were you hearing the feedback on your end too? Okay. That computer. All right. All right. Yeah, the new computer. All right. Now we're ready to go. Do I need to recall this meeting to order? Just kidding. So it's page 8 on the PDF.
All right, so the conditions of approval, there were 14. Am I looking at the right one?
Yep.
There. So number 14 states that an executed and recorded subdivision improvement agreement is required prior to city signing of the CSM and prior to release of any building permits. So there's no additional specificity there regarding the waiver of the Lacey Road sidewalk because the Plan Commission did not have the authority to agree to that specificity in its own conditions of the land division application. So instead, we discussed that the discussion in the minutes should reflect that and that we make that recommendation to Public Works, which we did. We passed that along to Public Works staff for drafting into the subdivision improvement agreement and negotiating with their board and the applicant. The discussion in the minutes talks about, Commissioner Kinney agreed that they should not require the sidewalk to be installed along Lacey Road. City Planner Kriesel replied that it can be addressed when the subdivision improvement agreement is approved. The Plan Commission cannot waive the requirement. Plan Commission can amend condition 14 to remove the prior specificity that had been drafted regarding the sidewalk. And that's the extent of the discussion that's in the minutes. So if you'd like it to reflect more detail, we can add that.
Yeah, the additional detail was that we were recommending that the subdivision, that the development agreement essentially, that there be a deed restriction placed on the lot on Lacey Road, that future owners of that lot would waive the right to contest assessment if sidewalks were to go in at a later date.
Okay, so I will add that the commission's consensus and recommendation for the SIA was that a deed restriction be placed on the lot along Lacey Road that future owners waive their right to assessment for sidewalk in the future.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Anything else anyone wants to change on the minutes? All right. So all in favor of approving the amended minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. All right, those are approved. Next up is public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't think anyone's here for something that's not on the agenda, but, all right, seeing no takers. Agenda review, I don't think we need to change anything around at all. So we can right into the first item, and that is public hearing and consideration of conditional use permit request, U 234720. Would you like Sean to speak to this first?
Applicant over.
Yeah, well, applicant, if you want to come up and.
I can't hear you anymore.
Uh-oh. All right, we're working on that. But if you guys want to come up and kind of tell us what you're doing, hopefully Zach can hear you. You still can't hear me at all, Zach? That would be a no. That's weird. Well, it's not mine up there. I'm not up there. 1 second. We gotta make sure he can hear you. Still can't. Do you want me to say something? All right, can you hear us at all? Doesn't seem like it. No, a little bit, maybe. No.
I can hear you guys, so I'm trying to work with Zach right now.
Okay, so it might be on Zach's end then, since one of our online people can.
Does he have an option to dial in by phone?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but you can't hear us. Give him a thumbs up, maybe.
Yeah.
I think he's getting chats from a few people right now. Because he could hear me before. He voted yes on the minutes. And then all of a sudden, all right, so much for a short meeting tonight. That's weird that you could hear us and now I can't. Scott, are we better off just giving him a phone number to call in? Okay.
Can do that. Oop, there you went.
He's gonna try to log out.
Now we're ready for you. Sorry. All right, tell us kind of what you're planning and what you want to do here.
I'm looking at doing a personal fitness place, facility.
All right, and you want to tell us kind of where it is and what you're planning for it?
It's right on MM. It's right on MM, so it's going to be right in that development right there on MM, where Bucky's is at. Where Bucky's is at.
Kind of was it close to the corner of B and MM?
Yeah, the farthest north building. Yeah, 2186.
All right,
Yep.
all right.
We originally wanted to do it 24 hours, but because of the location, it was suggested to do it from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. So it would just be something really small, like a little warehouse place for personal trainers to come and train their clients. But, you know, with everything happening with COVID-19, who knows what's going to happen with the gyms now, so.
Right.
And just having that conditional use. And so in the building, there's a tenant on one side, and then on the other side, it's 2,500 square feet, just open with the bathroom to be used just for that space, like a warehouse.
Yeah.
Fitness, you know, personal training area.
All right,
Yeah.
sounds good. Sonia, do you want to do a staff report?
Okay, is my audio working all right? All right. So I'm going to try to share my screen on Zoom for you all to see, and hopefully that doesn't blow things up here. Let's see. Okay. Starting just with the image that's in the Plan Commission memo, so you can have a context of where the site is. This is 2182 County Highway MM in the rural portion of Fitchburg, shown here on the memo. It's just north of the intersection with Burn Road, and then Highway B is up here to the north. So this is an existing, a site with existing development on it. I think the primary use there is Bucky's Rentals. They do rentals of portable toilets and I believe dumpsters and other rentals that I don't have a lot of detail on. But there are 3 existing buildings there shown on the screen. And the request for this conditional use permit is for a fitness facility under the existing zoning district for the property, which is BH Business Highway. Fitness facilities would be a conditional use permit. And the proposed building that they are going into is the northernmost building on the parcel here. And there are 2 tenant suites in that building. Per my understanding, the one to the north is occupied by an HVAC contractor, and the tenant space to the south is where the fitness facility is proposed to go. There are 9 parking stalls here in front of the building, and storage of Buc-ee's rental equipment behind with the 2 additional buildings that I mentioned. So the site has some history in regards to the outdoor storage, so I just wanted to walk through that chronologically in the approvals that have been granted by the city since 1979. I won't spend a lot of time on it, I'll go through it quickly, but I know that there are some potential concerns with commissioners regarding the outdoor storage on that property, so I just wanted to give context to that conversation. In 1979, when this site was under county zoning, they received architectural design review approval to construct the property. At that time, the ADR was limited specifically to prohibit any outdoor toilet storage. In 1990, a compliance letter was sent from the city planner, Tom Hovell, stating that they were not in compliance with that letter, or with that restriction. 15 years later, in 2005, the building on the southernmost end of the property was approved by the Plan Commission with ADR approval. At that time, there was also a note that storage of rental equipment, on the site plan that was submitted in 2005, there was a note that identified this fenced area behind the buildings as an area for storage of rental equipment. There were no specific conditions added to the ADR at that time, or no specific mention regarding the non-compliance from the 1979 condition. Then in 2006, 2 additional conditional use permits were approved for a sign company and a auto window tinting company. Both of those conditional use permits were approved. The permits there did not specifically mention the outdoor toilet storage, but rather had conditions that limited any storage related to those specific businesses that were approved by the CUPs. And then finally, in 2015, the Plan Commission here approved another architectural design review application for a new building on the north end of the site. That was never constructed. The ADR has now lapsed. If they wanted to move forward, they would have to come back for reapproval. Again, in the conditions of approval, there was no specific mention regarding the outdoor toilet storage. However, there was discussion in the minutes of the Plan Commission meeting from January in 2015 where the issue was raised, acknowledging the fact that the site had been non-compliant for the past 40 years with regard to the toilet storage. And at that time, the city planner noted that no complaints had been received, and the Plan Commission took action to approve the ADR with a limitation that any future interior division of the new building, so if they wanted to add a new tenant that could accommodate an additional rental equipment business, for example, that change would need to come back to Plan Commission with the idea that that could potentially limit the future proliferation of more storage problems. So it didn't necessarily address the existing non-compliance issue with the toilets, but sought to prevent future non-compliance or issues with outdoor storage in that new building. So that brings us back to the matter at hand tonight, which is a conditional use permit for a fitness facility. There are recommended conditions of approval in the staff memo, which I'll go through, and I have a couple of modifications. If the Plan Commission wanted to further limit the conditional use permit with anything specifically regarding the existing non-compliance issue, we would need to make sure that there is a direct connection between the fitness facility and the toilet storage. And I think that can be very difficult to do. I don't think that there's anything inherently about the fitness facility use that's specifically related to the outdoor toilet storage. So just keeping in mind that any conditions that are placed on a conditional use permit have to be related to the use that you're reviewing. That being said, there is an enforcement issue and a non-compliance issue that's been happening for the past 40 years, so that's something that staff acknowledges and would continue to look into and discuss with the property owner further. With that, I can go through the staff recommendation before commission discussion. So in your staff memo, there were 3 recommended conditions of approval. As I mentioned, I have some modifications to that, so I'm going to share that on the screen so that you can see my notes. Conditions 1 and 2, as written in the staff memo, remain the same. And then I have a modification to condition number 3. We got some more information regarding the specific occupancy that can be accommodated within the building based on the septic capacity limitation. So the gym, in any case, shall not exceed 21 persons. And then I've added 3 conditions here. Number 4, I added this condition based on a site visit that we did today just before the meeting. Lighting there is not very prevalent. So there's just one small light above the door to the tenant space. If I were using the gym late at night in the winter, 8 o'clock, and it was really dark, I think there would be some safety issues with this isolated location out in the country. So I've made the request that additional exterior wall lighting be added at the front door and made operational prior to occupancy of the space. At the site visit today, there were also some dumpsters being stored in the parking area. So just a condition specifically limiting that no storage would be allowed there. And then finally, the applicant did plan to add security cameras, but I wanted to formalize that by adding it to the conditions of the CUP.
All right. First, I need to open now the public hearing, and so I'll open that now. I don't have anyone that's registered from the public that wants to speak, so seeing no one else running in the door, I will close the public hearing and open up to comments, questions, anything like that from the Planning Commission members. Lane.
From your site visit, was the exterior wall lighting you recommended enough, do you think, or is there room for any in the parking lot? This is kind of where you want lights when you're going to your car, right?
Right. I think we could discuss that with the applicant and see if they'd be agreeable to additional parking lot lighting, if that's something the Plan Commission wants to add. I can bring up some site photos too while we're discussing to show that.
Did you want to speak to that at all?
My idea is to make sure everybody that comes there feels comfortable. You know, I don't want people to go in there and be dark or anything like that, so I'll definitely be having lighting out there so people
And
feel
the
comfortable.
front door to the parking place, to the parking spaces is what, do you think, how many feet? 12, 14? 14 feet. So we're gonna, on the security cameras, we'll have floodlights so that those will come on, you know, on that location, and there will only be one entrance in and one entrance out from the front. So those security cameras, and then we'll be having we'll be contacting like a 24-hour, what do you call that?
Software.
Protection that runs all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
All right.
Yes.
Other questions, comments at all? I can't see Zach, so let me know if he's raised his hand.
Well,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to thank staff for looking into the outdoor storage issue. And so with regard to the compliance issue, I don't recall, because there have been so many things that have taken place over time. Eventually, a fence was put up that fences in most of what is stored out there. But it would seem to me that before we continue to approve additional things at this property, that we should resolve that issue in some manner. In other words, make a decision as to whether the fence is sufficient screening and a requirement that everything be stored behind the fence, which currently it's not, or how we're doing this. And I just think that this is the opportunity to resolve this issue before we continue to have this property continue to develop.
Can I address that?
Sure.
I guess what I don't understand really is that hopefully that we're not penalized for what people have not done, that we weren't privy to or part of. All we're looking to do is rent this space. So anything to do with the portable toilet business, all the portable toilets are behind that fence. The Chuck Kearns, who runs the portable toilet business, He just recently started a roll-off dumpster, so those are at the front. So if he needs to move those, that's something that just happened within the last 2 to 3 weeks, then that letter should be addressed to him and for them to take care of all of that, because if this has been going on for 40 years, there should have been at some point some kind of letters being sent to the establishment. Portable toilets is on the one building, and the far right is Bucky's Rentals, 2 separate businesses. So that's what we're hoping, that we're not penalized for something that people haven't been privy to or complied to in order for us to have a little space inside, nothing outside.
It's all on the same property, though. It's all on the same parcel, the same property ownership.
Yes. I'm just asking that. I hope that we're not penalized because of something that hasn't been, if letters haven't been sent to say, hey, you need to get rid of these toilets, or you need to do this and that, but I don't see what steps have been done within the last number of years to get them to be compliant to what the issue is this evening.
Yeah, I guess I agree with what Sonia had said too. That it's not their toilets, it's not their dumpsters, and I don't think liability reasons, want to touch them or do anything with them. And I don't know it's fair to do that to them. If there's a compliance issue, we can talk about that and work with the right owners. But I don't know how you can force a company that has no relation to an ownership of those pieces to do something with those. I think that's something we want to look to reinforce. We can talk about it, or staff can talk about it, and we can deal with that. But to me, holding them essentially hostage for something they have no control over isn't necessarily fair in my mind.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, but this is an accommodation to the property owner who wants to rent the space. That's what this is. So I think you can very fairly tie these two things together, and I think that this issue should be corrected before we continue to make additional accommodations. That's my opinion.
Other thoughts?
I
Rich?
think, I feel bad for him, but I think that the rental should be contingent on the property owner coming up to
But
date.
that's holding us responsible for something that should have been, if we hadn't come to ask to rent this space, why wasn't this addressed years ago? I mean, this has been 40 years. In 2015, they came to want to have a building that wasn't done. Why in the last 5 years? And now all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now if you want this has got to happen, and that's out of our control. That doesn't seem to be fair for
Last year, there
us.
was vehicles, party buses, everything lined up out there, and I'm wanting to clean it up, to make it look nice, so when people do drive by, it looks professional. And last year, they had trash, I was picking up trash out of there, and we've had mechanics in there in the past that ruin it, they leave cars outside, and I'm not looking to do that, so.
Yeah, Steven.
So you don't own the property then? You're renting the space, or?
My dad owns the property.
Okay. The entire
Yes.
parcel?
Yep.
Other questions, comments? Or motions? Yeah, Lane, go ahead. No, that's not on.
These things, it seems kind of weird because there's family involved here, but is there a way to, maybe you guys from experience, because you've obviously been planning commission as long as all of us, and have probably seen some of the things happen here, which is maybe why being vigilant about it. You've seen it come across your desk before, but is there any way we can accomplish both? Again, I get it, they just want to use the inside. As a city, we're trying to clean up the outside a little bit. Any suggestions?
So I talked through this with the city attorney a few times today. And again, just the most basic thing to keep in mind is that any conditions placed on this conditional use permit must be related to the appropriateness of the fitness facility for the site. If the Plan Commission wants to continue discussion and can find a rational nexus or a direct relation and limit the conditional use permit appropriately, you may do so. I don't have a good suggestion for that right now, but we did talk through a few other options of how you might address this issue. One would be the hypothetical situation if there were additional architectural design review requests in the future or additional conditional use permits which proliferated the storage issue. That's very hypothetical, I understand. Second would be enforcement of the 1979 ADR approval. I think we can recognize that would be difficult to do, granted the 40 years of inaction by the city, while it's unfortunate that the property owner has not acknowledged that requirement. I think it's something that we could look into further, but our hands might be a little bit tied there. So future ADRs or CUPs, enforcement, we could also discuss with the property owner what accommodations they might be willing to make. For example, one of the more detailed items that they're non-compliant with was a requirement with the 2005 ADR for the south building to add 5 to 6 pine trees. They did not do that. So that's something that would be a little bit more simple for them to come into compliance with, and we could reach out to them outside of this conditional use permit review to require compliance with the tree screening. I noted that is down here on the south property line, so I'm not sure that it does much to address the toilet storage issue. And then I'll just also add the 2015 Plan Commission minutes. There was some discussion there about this outdoor storage, and there seemed to be some recognition by the property owner and the Plan Commission that this fence had been added sometime later. So if that is something that the Plan Commission wants to discuss, as you potentially mentioned, Ed, and acknowledge or recognize that in some issue, does that resolve the outstanding condition in the Plan Commission's mind, or would there be additional screening that could be added around the fence? Or would the Plan Commission prefer to take a full-out enforcement action that removes this entire very long area of toilet storage that's been on the aerial photo for decades? So essentially what I'm suggesting is some negotiation outside of the CUP with the property owner, some additional research and some discussion with our city attorney about what enforcement actions might be appropriate. Or if the Plan Commission feels there's not enough information that can be, as of tonight's meeting, that would allow you to take good action on the CUP, we could table this and come back with more information and after discussing with the property owner.
I think what I'm hearing is that the conditional use permit, the applicant is Sean. He has the business. It's not the property owner. That's not who's getting this permit. It's Sean, and we can't say, oh, sorry, even though you want this permit, you have to do all this other stuff on this property you don't own, because the property owner is not getting the permit. Sean with the gym space is getting the permit. So you can't say, well, that's great, but too bad. I mean, that's almost like, if a restaurant like Tapatios wants an alcohol permit, we say, well, you can't get your alcohol permit until the parking lot gets fixed by your landlord. Well, that's not really, I mean, I see there's a connection, but that's not the purpose of the permit.
And just to clarify, site plan and architectural issues can be a part of a conditional use permit review, but again, when it's related to the use for which you're reviewing the permit. So there are not enough parking stalls for the gym, so we're going to require that you add paved and striped parking areas or traffic circulation areas or exterior lighting or a proper entrance to the building, that sort of thing.
Is that how you're tying in the proposed condition of the dumpster storage then? Because the dumpster storage isn't theirs. Okay.
Correct.
Other comments?
I would just say what makes sense is, there should have been followed up on in early 1980 when they weren't compliant then. Having it fenced around, to me, just makes perfect sense. They don't need to be necessarily inside. If we haven't had complaints in 40 years, then I'm not so concerned. Let's do what makes sense. And given that our hands are a little bit tied in terms of actually addressing that through this CUP, I'd rather just proceed with the CUP and handle this as a separate topic.
Tom?
Sean, I heard you say something, but I didn't catch it. What's your relationship to Bucky or that?
It's my dad.
It's your dad?
Yep.
Okay. I think as the mayor spoke, I mean, you're talking about a business here. It's been there probably, I'm going to be off, 40, 45 years. It's been out there a long time. And if somebody didn't like what they're looking at as they drive down the highway, it should have been addressed long before now. And I just kind of feel the way that others have spoken here, that it's not fair to these people in reference to holding them hostage. Something should have been done a long time ago. And that's been there so long. I mean, this isn't new to Fitchburg. And it's like pre-hung doors. I mean, they've been there forever.
Right.
No, forget, a long time. And I think as a couple of members said here, it's, don't hold them hostage.
Thank you.
It was addressed in 1990, it was addressed in 2015, and now there are dumpsters out front on top of it. So I would like to see some sort of enforcement action taken that would trigger some sort of a plan that would be brought before us so we at least resolve this issue. If the outdoor storage is fine behind the fenced area, fine. Maybe that's what we need to agree to. If some landscaping is required that they promised in the past and have not provided, fine. But let's get that stuff done.
Yeah.
And if we want to treat that outside of this, that's fine. But, you know, at some point, you just get tired of it. And it's been going on for decades. And I've been on this commission for 25 years, so I've been in some of these prior discussions, and it's frustrating.
Well, in the past, last year, if somebody would have drove by, there was, I mean, they had boats out there, they had party buses, they had cars, I mean, lined up on the side. And now they do not. You can go out there, it's not one car parked out there.
It's a lot.
It's a lot better.
Last year, yes.
And that's what my goal is, to make it look nicer down there. So,
Steve, did you have something?
I'm just curious, were you not in the picture last year? Just given this is a family business, were you working for the business or there that, what
Well,
made this change, I guess?
they moved. We had to move. We evicted them.
Got it.
Because they were taking advantage of
And
the
doing
space.
things that they shouldn't be doing.
Right. I mean, it was pretty bad.
Is there,
What they were doing inside too.
As a landlord, I feel your pain. Sonia, how many new conditions did you have?
6, right?
I have 6 total, so it's 1 and 2 as written, modified number 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 are new.
I move to approve conditional use permit 2347-20 with the 2 original and 4 amended recommendations from staff.
Is there a second? Second by Lane. All right. What?
That addresses the,
Well, we will. Well, I think it's
Comes
probably
later.
for
Right.
building inspection and figuring that out, but that's not really part of a conditional use.
fair enough. Second.
We will.
Yeah, I think that the attorney's opinion trumps everything, you know.
Don't tell her that. No, just kidding.
I mean, well, you know what I mean. It's like.
Oh,
he's
it
our-
does? We've had discussions about that before now, too.
All right, so let's do a vote here. All in favor of approving the conditional use permit, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, going on to number B here, PDD modification request. I don't know, I'm not sure what thing you're here for, if it was that or something else, okay. Oh, can you, yeah, why don't you come up to a microphone real quick first?
Gonna roll off in there, I'd really like to know when they're gonna address this storage issue. I live right on the corner of B and 14.
Yeah, I think we'll have building inspection probably this week, contact them and figure that piece out. And I don't know if you would like, staff maybe to follow up with you.
If it would be
That'd be great.
possible, yeah, because, like I said, I've lived there for 46 years,
Yeah,
before they were even there.
Yep.
When they moved in, they were well behaved. They did get carried away with the storage, but they did fence it in. It would be nice if they would do something to make it look a little bit better instead of just a chain link fence basically with screening on it.
yeah.
But with the roll-off, I mean, now you're talking about, trucks coming in and out of there. I work 7 at night, or I go to bed at 7 at night, and and I'm up at 2:30 in the morning to go to work. So, and there would also be nice to have some time constraints in there that would be a little bit more reasonable for the people who do live right around there.
Yeah, if you can maybe get a piece of paper from the back and write your contact information, I can have staff follow up once we know a little bit more, make contact. I can give it to Lisa or someone up here, and we can
No,
get
that would,
follow up with you.
yeah, if they can address that, like I said, the portable stuff, that was one thing, but, roll-off's gonna be just a hugely different, story there.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, next up is the PDD modification request for 2845 Oregon Road. Are you handling this one, Sonia?
Okay. This is a minor PDD modification request for the Artisan Village development that was approved recently on the northeast side of Fitchburg, so at the corner of Oregon Road and Novation Parkway, adjacent to Town of Madison properties. I'll bring up the screen share again here. So the development is shown on the staff memo. It includes 5 buildings. And the signage request here, I'll bring that up too. Their PDD included a signage plan specific to their property. It included a 28 square foot apartment sign on Oregon Road, a 28 square foot apartment sign on Novation Parkway, a small directional sign, and 5 wall signs along Novation Parkway, each at about 6 square feet per sign. So they are now requesting to modify by adding a 27 square foot sign on the clubhouse, which is right in the center of the 5 building development. And the total of all of the signage with the addition would be 117 square feet total. I think this is consistent. Our general signage limits businesses to 150 square feet total, so it is well below that standard. And the 27 square foot is below our typical apartment signage of 40 square feet. So again, I think it's appropriate. It's just required to come here because it's a minor amendment to their PDD specifications. There are no conditions recommended.
All right, questions, comments, anything like that? Ed? Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to speak. All right. Someone want to do a motion then?
Wrong side. I move to approve minor PDD modification request for 2845 Oregon Road.
I'll second.
All right, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. All right, next up, ordinance 2020-16. I believe Lisa is going to be telling us about this one. Come on down.
Right. So I'm just going to give sort of a brief overview of what the ordinance amendment is. So this would be an amendment to Chapter 23, which is the Smart Code zoning ordinance, and it's relative to lot coverage. So lot coverage is essentially just impervious surfaces, so it includes anything like driveways, decks, buildings, things like that. And there's always a maximum lot coverage, which is common throughout the city. So for Smart Code, each transect has a different lot coverage maximum. So transect 3, which is sort of like your typical suburban sort of style, is going to have a lower lot coverage than transect 5, which will be more like your urban core sort of high-density multifamily. So, and then lot coverage also varies based on Smart Code community. So there's either going to be a transit-oriented development or a traditional neighborhood development. Transit-oriented development is meant to be like at a higher density to support public transit. So our Uptown neighborhood and North Park are transit-oriented development, whereas Terra Vesta is traditional neighborhood design, sort of more of like what you would see in a typical, in a neighborhood. So this amendment would increase the lot coverage maximum for a rear yard multifamily lot, which is just another way of saying a townhouse lot. And it would increase it from 70 to 80% in Transect 4 only. And it would apply to both the traditional neighborhood and then also the TOD neighborhood. So just to give some background, in 2013, there was a code amendment to increase the lot coverage maximum to 90% for townhouse lots with specific conditions such as it had to be located in a transit-oriented development and it had to be within 150 feet of a T5 lot, which is really saying that, basically increased lot coverage is going to make a bigger building, and those are more appropriate perhaps in a T5 transect as opposed to like a T3 or a T4. So that was, I think, at the time, staff's way of sort of guaranteeing that there was some transition between the transects and, maintaining that differentiation between larger and smaller buildings and things like that. And basically, it was proposed because developers weren't able to provide a townhouse lot meeting the maximum lot coverage that was in place. So the 90% was allowed essentially to address that issue. And now we're having developers come forward in the Terravessa neighborhood, which is the traditional neighborhood development, coming across a similar problem with lot coverage where they're just not able to meet that requirement and then still provide sort of like a livable, usable unit. So essentially, the amendment is trying to address that sort of limitation and by increasing the lot coverage from 70 to 80. And staff, I think, feels comfortable just because every townhouse development that's been approved in our smart code neighborhoods has applied for the waiver. So it sort of, I think, signifies that there might be a limitation in the code. So staff is recommending approval of the ordinance. Do you have any questions?
All right, first I need to open the public hearing, so I will do that. Public hearing is now open. Don't see anyone from the public here, so I will close the public hearing and open up for comments, questions, discussions. One thing I had, sorry, I'm gonna just go first, is if the TOD areas, people are asking for up to 90%, by making this 80%, are we just gonna have a bunch of people, and it's only Terravessa, I guess, but come in and say, oh, actually we want it to be up to 90%, because that's what you have over in the TOD.
Right. I think that you would probably have to get into a little bit of like the intent of smart code and things like that and differentiating between a transit-oriented development neighborhood and a T&D neighborhood. They're specifically defined in the code as being different, where TOD, again, you're gonna have higher density, like they can have taller buildings as well in TOD, so it really just comes to the two neighborhoods are treated differently at the very core of the code and wouldn't consider an amendment likely to support that.
All right, Steven.
Now I'm really curious, how do we set that, like when we set out to do Terravessa, why was that one TND instead of TOD?
Yeah, so I think if you, like on our future land use map, there's actually an area identified by North Park. So we're talking Sain and Lacey. We have the taller North Park apartments, and then you have kind of uptown developing right now. There is an area on the future land use map identified as a transit stop, and that was part of conversations from like the 2009 comp plan about activating the railway and potentially having public transit, coming all the way down through Fitchburg. So those areas were identified as being more appropriate for TOD, and then the higher density allowed in TOD, would bring in the people where then it would support investment in public transit infrastructure, whereas opposed to Terravessa is farther east and isn't going to be supported by transit, not as likely as the other areas.
So it's closer to 14, but also the railroad's going right through it, and that
Right.
maybe at some point that would be
Yeah.
used. Okay.
That's the hope per the comp plan.
All right, other people? Ed?
So does this impact the impervious surface ratio then? And does this have some impact on the stormwater plans for the neighborhood?
Sure. So I think in the packet, the attachment for this item does include a memo from the engineer for Terravessa. So this is something we talked about. So essentially lot coverage is the same thing as impervious the surface ratio. So if we're saying like you can only have 70% of your lot covered by impervious surfaces, then 30% of it needs to be able to accommodate water and basically allow for infiltration. So for example, like with the Terravessa neighborhood, these lots, the stormwater modeling assumed that there would be a 70% lot coverage. And so then we, spoke with the developer as well as the engineer and asked them to ensure that the stormwater facilities could accommodate an increase. And per their modeling, they have said, or their initial modeling, they said that they believe that it could be accommodated. And then in speaking with our environmental engineer who approves all of like the erosion control permits, whenever anybody wants to build, they have to get the permits and then they have to show that they're gonna be meeting those like impervious surface requirements, that they have to submit an updated stormwater report to Public Works for approval to show that all the models show that they can accommodate the increased impervious surface. So that is something that we would require. So like if someone in Uptown, for example, wanted to apply for the same increase, then they have to show that it can be accommodated in the stormwater system.
Okay.
All right. Anyone else?
I got a question.
Yeah, Rich.
How does pervious pavement fit in here? Could we ask them to use that instead of regular pavement? Would that knock the percentage somewhat? I don't know how that
Yeah.
is that calculated.
So that is something we talked about, kind of trying to figure out what the solutions were gonna be, and that's one of the first things that we looked at. So right now, city code doesn't accommodate pervious surfaces, so like other communities will say, if you use pervious pavement, then you can reduce it by like 75% or something, because it's not gonna be total infiltration. But ultimately, that would take it'd be a longer process and another code amendment and like talking with Public Works about what they think is acceptable, and some initial concerns from Public Works were just maintenance, and we can't, like somebody could potentially take out the pervious pavers in 20 years and just pave their driveway, and, is there staff capacity to sort of enforce that farther down the road? So it's maybe easier to enforce the stormwater facility aspect. Yeah. But it is something to consider. Pervious
Yeah.
pavement is good.
Out here
Yeah.
at the library.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Has anyone else done this that we're aware of that's increased this from the standard 70 to 80?
Like in our smart code neighborhoods?
I'm just saying any other communities, any other municipalities changed it from the 70 to 80.
We're the only community with smart code.
Yeah, I mean, we're the only community with smart code specifically. I don't know if, Sonia, if you're familiar with sort of modifications to.
Yeah, we
previous
didn't
purpose.
compare to other communities since we're sort of the only one with the smart code. So we considered, I think, the two primary factors, one being the stormwater, which we just discussed, and two, are we still providing that good transition between the different transects, which Lisa also described. So we felt in terms of bulk and massing standards, this would still allow for that appropriate transition from the lower lot coverage to 70 to 80 to T5, which allows up to 90%. So. And then in terms of City of Fitchburg Smart Code, Lisa did acknowledge that the TOD ordinance had been amended. So other townhome developments in the Uptown neighborhood have applied for the waiver.
Anything else? Or a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 2020-0-16 with no conditions.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Nice work.
And opposed, nay.
Thank you.
All right, that is approved. Thank you, Lisa.
The young Padawan is learning.
All right, next up is resolution R10120. It's Terravasa Road change, change the name of road. There we go. Sonny, do you want to speak to this?
That actually,
So this is an affidavit of correction, which is just an allowable instrument that you can use to make a correction to a plat. So this would be a resolution, the Plan Commission and the council would need to approve it, and it would allow for a street name change in the Terravasa neighborhood. I have it up on the screen here. When you first come in off of MM and you head east on Lacey Road, the first intersection you meet is where Endive Drive goes south as well as to the north. And then when you hit the curve and start going more east-west in direction, it is called Brassica Road. The new elementary school is right up here and would have a Brassica Road address. So the school is the exact reason and impetus for this change. With it being such a destination use and traffic driver, we wanted to make sure that wayfinding was easy so that when you come to that intersection, you know where Brassica Road is instead of seeing Endive and getting confused. Public safety also supported this this change, just from a public safety response, of course, getting to the school and seeing Brassica Road right away when you enter there. So the amended version would be on this side of the screen with Endive Drive going south and the name becoming Brassica Road right at the intersection and going north.
Questions? Lane?
Yes, so when I read this weekend, I'm like, this is, Madison is full of these, right? This way is Putnam, this way is,
We have those in Fitchburg too.
why? Like, and this is brand new, like, why doesn't it just be all Endive or all Brassica from the first place? What, I get the school thing, but why? Why change, why?
I wasn't here when this was platted, but I know there was a lot of discussion about changing the name at this curve, and I think it was one of the challenges of the larger preliminary plat of Terra Vesa. Smart Code and general urban planning tries to encourage grid street networks so that you avoid some of these issues, but in Terra Vesa they have a lot of curvilinear streets. So with Brassica changing direction, really, and no longer being a north-south road like Endive, it goes east-west. So the name changed at the curve. The intersections in our land division ordinance allow for no more than 3 names at an intersection. So this would be the max. You'd have Lacey, Endive, and Brassica. So it's something that maybe we don't want to encourage all over the place. But in terms of the preliminary plat, Brassica extends all the way back towards, I think it's Larson Road in the back, at an east-west direction.
Does staff talk about just making the whole thing Brassica, even Endive to the south?
Thank you. That's what I said that, but thank you.
Yeah. It's not something that we specifically looked into. I think one of the challenges is there are a lot of established addresses already on that southern portion on Endive. That's where most of our building permits have been released to date.
And those people are pretty close to moving in. Yeah, I mean, it's a,
Especially on the other side, there's a bunch of them that I just rode my bike there the other day.
yeah, I agree. It's pretty annoying, especially when Richardson ends at McKee Road. That's my biggest complaint. But
Of course, right? Of course. I guess it is what it is.
all right, anything else, Steve?
I'm just curious, so this is in the original plating, who has a say in that? That doesn't come to the plan commission to name all this, right? Is it you as the
Yes,
planner?
the plan commission would establish that when they approve the final plat is when names are formally established.
Would we go to that granular level, though, to actually look at every street name? Or,
I'm looking at Ed over here because I want to blame somebody for this.
So sometimes they just say, when they're platted, they just say Street A,
Platted.
Street B, and then they get named later too. So I don't know, but as Sonia pointed out, it's the curve of the road that causes the road at that point. If it weren't for the school issue, we'd be leaving it as it is. It would become Brassica as you make the curve. And I get from the school standpoint that it does make wayfinding more difficult, so.
but why? Why does it make, I mean, just eventually you'll put in an address, it'll be not platted, but found wayfinding, just go to that address, right?
Yeah,
How does changing that small section of Endive to Brassica, I agree with it, because I think it should, lesser of two evils, right? You pull in Endive, Brassica, fine, not Endive and then Brassica, but I don't understand why one makes the school finding it better. School's the biggest thing out there, you can't miss it. I don't know,
maybe they just didn't like the name,
this is weird.
Endive or whatever.
All right, anything else? No. We gotta
I
go
move to
for it?
approve resolution R 101-20 with zero conditions by staff.
Second.
All right, signed by Ed. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. And one more, R 9920, Sonia.
So this final one is a series of easements that the Plan Commission is required to approve. And these are in the Uptown neighborhood, which is another Smart Code area. And there are 3 different types of easements. I think there were 9 total. There's 1 sidewalk easement, 2 easements for a transformer that I believe services the streetlights that are going in the area, and then a series of utility easements. And all of these easements and improvements are associated with the road construction projects that are going on out in that area, Central Park Place extension, Green Market Place, and East Sherrill Park improvements. So I do have exhibits if there are questions on anything specific. I'll just show you a couple of examples. So on page 39 of the packet is the really tiny area needed to accommodate public sidewalk on private property where it hits the corner. The transformer easement, for example, is this hashed area that goes back into the site where the transformer is located there in the rear yard of the future smart code development. And then we'll go to a utility easement example. So here along Central Park Place, you have the property line, and then the easement is the first 6 feet behind that to accommodate public utilities. And this is fairly standard. All of our other smart code developments have the utility easement behind the right-of-way line as well.
Any questions or comments? Or just a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 99-20.
Second.
All right, seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, that is approved. Report from department.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a more formal list together for a development update, and I don't have that ready. Maybe at a future meeting we can go through just an update status on recently approved developments. But off the top of my head, I have a few updates on various projects. So Lot 12 out in Orchard Point, that's the luxury resort-style senior housing project that was approved. They did pull building permits, and they're doing work out there. So that project's moving forward. The juice plant site clearly is moving forward on Fishatry Road with all of the demolition complete there. The solar farm is something that was recently approved with a conditional use permit by the Plan Commission. They haven't seen any sort of financial or economic delays related to COVID, but just some procedural delays with signing contracts for their remaining energy purchasers. So because of the problems of just getting in front of the various boards and committees to approve those contracts, they're delayed by a few months. So they're going to look to start construction in September of this year and go live with energy sometime next spring.
It's in the paper today.
What's that?
I was just going to say, if you haven't seen the articles, it's nice
Yeah.
to see a really nice story about Fitchburg on
Yeah.
television and newspaper.
Exactly, some good press there. And Lot 10 Orchard Point is another, I think this was 135 unit workforce housing development in that neighborhood. They have been approved multiple times by the city, and we're waiting to hear the results of their WITA, LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit application. They did not make the first cut, and they are first on the waiting list. And I believe they missed the total points cutoff by just 1 point. So what being on hold means is that they would have to wait for funding for the projects that were awarded to not take that funding, and then they would be next in line to get it. So all other details aside, they're working out financing still on that project and do hope to move forward eventually.
Also, Sonia, next Wednesday night at the Council's Committee of the Whole, you're also going to be speaking a little bit. Do you want us to kind of tell people what that is, and if anyone wants to listen, they might find that interesting?
Yep, so at Committee of the Whole, the first hour of the agenda will be Misty Dodge, our finance director, with some basics on our CIP, our capital improvements plan basics. And then I'll have the second hour requested by our council president, Alder Radafrada, on planning and zoning 101. So for the new alders, as well as a refresher for our existing alders or anyone else that wants to listen, we're just gonna go over some fundamentals, like what is planning? Planning is not zoning. What is a comprehensive plan? What is zoning? What is Euclidean zoning? What is smart code zoning? What is a plat, a CSM? What do all these acronyms mean? So just some really good basics as a refresher or new information for those interested.
Wednesday night, yep, next Wednesday
Council
night.
meeting?
Yeah, it's the Committee of the Whole meeting.
Committee of the Whole, okay.
Yeah, it starts at 7, so your part will be roughly 8 o'clock. We'll start.
So we get to learn on the job and they get education and training?
Yeah. And there's a packet for that, right?
Yeah, there will be.
Because I might want to follow
There might
along.
be some slides or something like that.
Yep.
All right. Any other announcements, Tom?
I've had some calls in reference to Terra Vista, and I think the staff knows that maybe you've had some too, in reference to people now moving in at the end of May. Is that still on schedule as far as we know?
Do you know when do they have to to move
I
in?
think there were some hang-ups, but it sounds like it's worked out. And as far as maybe could be a sidewalk, or it could be something that was, but all I'm saying is, we're good to go at the end of the month, aren't we, as far as?
The trigger is when council formally accepts the public improvements, and that is anticipated for the end of May. So you're correct, we just need to have that formal council approval.
Okay. The other thing is just a comment, just my own comment, see what the other members think. Sonia did it tonight, she started with it. We haven't done this a lot in the city, but maybe cross-reference, in other words, somebody from Public Works, maybe every several months. I said months, not every meeting. Could let us know how Fishasher Road's going. PD, there's huge developments going on in the city right now. And not only would the Plant Commission get on board to know what's going on, but also the public would. And, now, Sonia could say she could cover it. I get that. That's okay. But Public Works, I'd like to see them come to some of these meetings sometime and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we know. This we don't know. And these developments right now, what's going on in the city, besides people frustrated and calling me, I think it'd be good information for the entire city just to get out there in the future. That's
Yeah, I can speak to one thing. I know that we're putting in lights in coordination with the county at MM and Lacey Road. That's going to happen for the schools, but also at MM and McCoy. The county did ask us, they want to make that MM McCoy intersection even safer than what was originally planned. And so we applied for funding, I believe federal funding for that to improve that. And we did get awarded that money as well. So that's something that it pushes it back to doing it next year, unfortunately, but it's going to kind of redo that whole intersection even more and make it even safer than just putting lights on it as well. I know they're looking at changing where the bike path crosses and the turn lanes and all that as well. So we did get that funding as well to pay for that. So, all right. Yeah, Sonia.
Just in terms of sharing information too, I wanted to give a preview. Lisa, our obvious smart code expert, has been putting together a presentation just to give an update on smart code developments. I know that's something that the council has requested as well. So not something we get to share often, but has been delayed due to the sort of Zoom condition that we're in with the COVID meeting. So something that will come in the future as well.
All right. I think that's all the announcements. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second? Steve moved it. You seconding it? Second by Lane. All right. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right. We are adjourned. 7:39.